Hello and welcome to yourlocalnote.com. This is another vidcast. We appreciate you hanging out with us. We've got I Am Not the Universe is going to be joining us. Actually, we will be speaking with Bill from I Am Not the Universe. We're going to be talking about their music and the band and all that good stuff. That's coming up in just minutes. Also, if you are checking in for the first time, I want to remind you what we do here at yourlocalnote.com. If it's about the Philly music scene, it's on our site. We've got music news. We've got shows. We promote the different bands. You can see where your favorite bands are playing. We do a music news update called the YLN Update. You can check that out. Plus, we also do our vidcasts, and we've got them archived. Hundreds of vidcasts archived or podcasts, both. You can check them out. Plus, we stream nothing but the best Philadelphia music 24/7 with our streaming, and you can get that and take that with you with our free app. Just go to YLN, or I should say, just go to the respective stores and type in YLN, download it for free, and you can take yourlocalnote.com with you anywhere you want to go. So let's get started here with I Am Not the Universe. Their song is called Curtains, and this is from their album
Curtains of American Flags.
Oh, it's Curtains of American Flags.
Sorry
about that, Bill. All right, Curtains of American Flags from the album Super PAC Americana on yourlocalnote.com.
With sticks and straws and hope, you can drive a bus across the country. Curtains of American flags show just what you want to show us when you pull them back. Maybe that's all it takes. You shift your shades of faith like a lie to show us what you value. You can watch your weight and shave your beard off, claim it's a higher demand. Let market research build the image, but destroy the man. We don't need a model, we don't need a spokesman, we don't need a mascot, we're not a joke. This ain't no reality TV, you're not a game show host. Oh, but maybe that's all it takes. Familiar faces, so do toys and sugar. You loved them in the movies, why not love when they're in power too? It's a beautiful excuse for those who chose to run, to develop such a ruse reduces everyone. No one makes a move without seeing who to prove. Maybe that's all part of your plot. You cry out in persecution, keep a catalog. Everybody loves the underdog. Any questions you are asked, you dodge. It's the coup d'etat of the demagogue.
And that is Curtains of American Flag. The group is called I Am Not the Universe, and the album is Super PAC Americana, and representing the group tonight is Billy. Bill, thank you so much for joining us on yourlocalnote.com.
Sure thing, RJ. Thanks for having me.
Okay, what we can do right now is let's talk about this song, and then let's talk about I Am Not the Universe and how it got together and things like that. So let's start off with Curtains of American Flag. Is that a song you wrote?
Yeah, it is. Curtains of American Flags is about the kind of theater that's developed in the last, I guess we can say 30 years or maybe 60 years.
Okay.
Around running for national office.
Okay.
And there's a lot of lines in there. If you're a more observant listener, you can pick up on some references that I dropped. I think it's kind of my most bipartisan song.
Okay.
In that I launch attacks against guys on the right, guys on the left. There's a little reference. There's a line.
The professional politician.
What's that?
The career professional politician.
Yes, the career professional politician, and most especially the kind of well, I said it already, but theater that they have to put on. There's a line in there that's you can build your house with sticks and straws and hope. That's kind of a shot at the Obama campaign.
Hope and change.
And I'm not even a guy who's against that. And then on the other hand, you have Sarah Palin touring the country in a bus, which was literally just decaled out in American flags. And I thought that was such an apt metaphor that she's kind of like hiding behind this window that's curtains of American flags. And it's exactly what all these politicians are really doing, is just kind of, there's a famous quote, when fascism comes to this country, it'll be wrapped in a flag and carrying a cross.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about. Yeah, absolutely.
It's hard not to think about Sarah Palin when you hear that.
Well, there's certain people I would agree that tries to do that. And this is where it's important to educate yourself and see through the BS, because it's all BS.
Right. I think that they're all kind of playing to a 24-hour news cycle.
Part of it.
Mostly a televised and internet news cycle, which is not, the kind of like higher-minded news cycle that is out there. There's other ways to get better news, more traditional ways.
I'm more cynical than you, obviously, because I'm going to say
pretty cynical.
No, I'm going to get to it right now. They're not playing to the news. That's just a platform for them. They're playing to their contributors,
right?
The big money donors. They're bought and paid for. They're all bought and paid for, and it's a scam. And and we're going to get into another song about a scam. We'll do that a little bit later on.
Sure.
But it's something that, and I got to be careful because Mike's already starting to laugh. It's something that I don't want to get too carried away with. But I mean, we have to. It comes back to us though, as citizens, to say, you know what, these guys, first of all, are making way too much money. Their perks are unbelievable. They are not part of the everyday American who's getting up, going to work, trying to improve their lot in life, taking care of their family, all that good stuff. These guys are being limoed around. They are get a raise automatically. They
vote on their own raise.
No, they don't. There's it just happens. They don't have to vote anymore.
Right.
They voted. They did this years ago. Bill, you got to get on top of these things. I'm just kidding.
RJ, I don't know if you have other bands talk about politics a lot.
No one does.
This is kind of what my specialty is that I make, and I didn't set out to do this, but I've caused a lot of political discussions when I go out and play, to the point where I've seen friends
fight,
arguing during my set, and then not talk to each other for the remainder of the set.
So you ruin friendships. Okay,
I do.
That's could.
And this is a good I Am Not the Universe concert.
That's a side effect, or you should maybe start with a disclaimer with the show. Coming to an I Am Not the Universe show could cause loss of friendship, high blood pressure, all that. No, I'm just kidding.
There is kind of a performance art aspect to it where I kind of hope to surprise people with that sort of thing.
Well, and so you're passionate about that, and you're putting it into song, but that's a tradition that's been going on in this country for a very long time.
Absolutely.
And it needs to continue. Whether I agree with what you say or not, you need to be able to do that, because that's your right. And so I'm a big First Amendment person.
Yeah.
You can disagree with me all you want, and you have every right to do it. Now, there's responsibilities to be responsible and not be a jerk about it.
Sure. And the best way to suppress the First Amendment is to own the means by which to express oneself.
Exactly.
And so that's why I like what you're doing here with this radio station so much, because it's such a private little thing, and you are you're okay with me saying this stuff on the air.
Right.
But if it was, there are other artists out there who have a bigger profile than I do,
right,
who could never get on the air, with a song called, Ron Paul's Big Scam. Right. They would never play that,
yes,
because there's corporate interests aligned.
There is corporate interest, but there's also, you got to be careful too. And then we're going to get into how the band started. But you also got to be careful. And there's, for example, and I lived through this when the Dixie Chicks years ago, and I was actually programming country radio at the time. Look
at what happened to them.
Now, but you got to be careful. As an artist, you can say, yes, I can say what I want. But as a consumer, I can pay what I want.
Right.
So if you're going to take a chance, and it's your right to take that chance. But it's my right to say, yeah, I'm not going to give you a dime.
Right.
Because I don't agree with what you say.
Did people stop buying the Dixie Chicks albums because of what they said? Now, in case people don't know, they said that they were ashamed that the president, then George Bush, was from the same state
of Texas.
Right, Texas.
People were aggravated because they did it in London, not in the United States. They felt that was a cheap shot. What really got people mad was when they made their attempted apology.
Right. I liked that song. I'm not going to play nice.
No, not the
like
song.
That, right?
No, they did an interview.
Oh, okay.
On the news. It might have been 2020 or one of those news programs. They were brought on. And it was basically, screw you. If you don't like what I say, screw you. And the American people said,
hey, man, that's the attitude I expect from my rock stars, even if they're country, radio-friendly country songs.
And they have every right to do that. But their fans said, yeah, okay, screw me, fine, screw you.
Man, did you ever see the Clash show up on the Tom Snyder show, the old Tom Snyder show?
Yeah.
And they basically spit at him, and they tore a doll up for some reason.
Yeah.
And it was all part of it. It was all part of the show.
Again, you have every right to do that, but you have to know if your audience is into that, then more power to you. But if your audience is not into that, that's a bad business move. And there's a difference between, and this is where people get crazy, freedom of speech is not, I can say what I want and I can't get fired from a job, or you have to still buy my records and things like that. Freedom of speech is just basically the government can't arrest you and can't shut you up.
Right. I say that all the time because people complain. I remember most recently it was about this Donald Sterling issue, where they said, "Oh, they're suppressing his freedom of speach." Well, they're not, because no government stepped in and said
he didn't get arrested.
Get out.
No, he didn't get arrested, and the market took care of that. I mean, it was a very dumb business.
Well, it was
move
an
on his
insular
part.
union more so than a market.
But still, but the fans were also, there was an outcry from the fans
and the
customers,
players.
So you had the product and the customers saying to this guy, we don't want anything to do with you. And the NBA, which is a business, had to say, all right, if we let this guy continue, we could damage our overall product.
Right.
So,
and I think they did. Even
he walked away with over $1 billion.
Well, he didn't suffer for it.
Yeah, exactly. It's crazy. Oh, we're carrying on.
We're on a tangent.
Let's quickly talk about how the band got together, because it's kind of unique in the way that you're here and it's your project. You're sort of the lead of this project, but you've got other people who come in and help you, but they've got other projects that they work on. So explain how I Am Not the Universe got together.
These guys are all friends of mine. And they're great musicians in Philadelphia. There's Jonas Osterly, whose name I probably butchered. Sorry, Jonas.
Jonas O.
who plays drums for Purples.
Okay.
And they're a fantastic local band. And then there was Mike Kiker, who played bass. He's a member of St. James and the Apostles.
Okay.
One song, which I guess is the next song we're going to hear, has the Pretty Greens backing up, who are a local feminist punk rock trio. Right, and I put together these bands, for each song, so it was song specific. But they're all friends of mine. They all, in fact, Jonas and Julia from the Pretty Greens, both really encouraged me to make this record.
Nice.
It's not, it's something that I was kind of wishy-washy on the fence about. Am I going to make a record? Am I not going to?
Why were you wishy-washy about it? You're a songwriter.
It takes a lot of ego to get all these people together and say, do this for me. I'm the leader now.
Okay.
I've been in bands before. I've been in bands that toured where I was not the songwriter.
Right.
And, I knew what it was like to live under that.
Okay.
So I didn't like the idea of being that guy who's ordering people around. But
Okay, let's put this on hold, and we're going to continue this.
Sure.
Because I want to play the second song, because you did mention it, and we'll talk about the song, and we'll continue talking about how you have become leader of this, a reluctant leader of this band, and we'll talk more about how you put this together, because this is very interesting. The song is called "Redemption for the Rich, Prison for the Poor." We're hanging out with Bill from I Am Not the Universe, and this is from the album Super PAC Americana on yourlocalnote.com.
What do you get when you're caught counting cards? Even at a predatory house of ill regards. What do you get when you bungle hundreds of pensions? Rig a family's mortgage so it fails and bet against them. It's easy to demand the victims take the blame. After all, vampires must be invited, and those who invite them deserve to be drained. Number runners, pickpockets, grifters go to jail. But rob enough people and you got the money to rewrite the laws in a system for sale. Oh, but the wealthy worked for all their clout, and if it appears they sold us out, we'll owe them all a little more. Redemption for the rich and prison for the poor. What do you get if you poison your husband? Even if he beats and rapes you and intimidates and insults and degrades you, what do you get if you poison an ocean just to make $1 more than you did the year before? It's easy to believe that nobody's at fault, but obviously if a ball is released, then there must be somebody who dropped the ball. Call the National Guard if you forgot a bag on a bus. But 210 million gallons of sludge in the Mexican Gulf is the cost of this nuts. Oh, but the wealthy worked for all their clout, and if it appears they sold us out, we'll owe them all a little more. Redemption for the rich and prison for the poor. You can't fool me. I've seen equality. Justice was blind, but you taught her to see in green and even prison. Now is the business. Oh, and guess who gets treated humanely? Oh, what are you called if you welch on a promise because of some contingency? Would you call that honest? What are you called when you keep the sick from being healed and you just collect their money? Blue Cross Blue Shield. Oh, it's easy to insist everyone's at risk, but procedure provided ought to be decided by doctors and not by financial interests. Any mechanic can tell you if you got a vehicle unfit to run, but insurance denies you or could save your life. You could call it a pre-existing condition. All of the wealthy's work for all their clout, and if it appears they sold us out, we'll owe them all a little more. Redemption for the rich, prison for the poor. Oh, it's redemption for the rich and prison for the poor. Redemption for the rich and prison for the poor.
That is called Redemption for the Rich, Prison for the Poor. The band is I Am Not the Universe, and the album that we're playing this off of is Super PAC Americana. And we're hanging out with Bill, who's the leader of I Am Not the Universe. And we were talking about how you put the band together and how this was not something you were really doing because you don't feel, you're not comfortable telling people or ordering people, I should say.
Yeah.
It's not a comfortable position for you.
Well, look, I put this band together. I started playing as I Am Not the Universe to talk about, we're having better conversations between the breaks. But to get to what we were saying there, to sum it up, I started I Am Not the Universe to talk about stuff that you really can't talk about.
Right.
You know, it's got a lot of really. I spent a lot of time really challenging people on their political affiliations, their religious ideals. You know, the method by which they judge people, whether or not they think their parents were good parents, you know?
Right.
I mean, I really get into it.
That's
you know?
a tough one because I know my strengths and weaknesses of my parents. But if you start telling me about how bad my parents are, I'm going to get aggravated with that.
Right.
That's not going to settle well with me.
Right.
So I can see where people would get a little...
I think that there is... you know, I hate to use the word, but I think that there's a market for people who want to get aggravated by their music, because I see them. They come to the show and they argue with me, and then they buy me a drink, and it's great, you know?
As long as they're buying you a drink, and as long as, you know, the argument doesn't escalate, as long as it's an exchange of ideas.
Yeah.
And the key thing is, what we're not getting is we're not listening. And I always like to say... And I've done talk shows. I've done political talk shows. I always like to say we've got 2 ears and 1 mouth for a reason. We should listen twice as much as we speak, and we probably would be better off. We're not doing that right now. Both sides, or whatever side you want to talk about, they're not listening. You
know, I spend more time when people want to chat with me after shows, actually kind of just doing what I was just doing there, just kind of like listening, and then. You know, I usually end up agreeing most of the way, about 75% of the way with people. And then when that one little nugget of, I think you might be mistaken here comes up, I just offer it, you know?
Yes.
And so that's kind of part of the performance art aspect of I Am Not the Universe.
And that's a cool thing. I tell people, you know, if I agree with a person 100% of the time, that's boring. Like my wife and I, we don't agree 100% of the time. We agree, I would say, anywhere from 70 to 80% of the time on stuff. But there's topics that we don't agree on. And we have spirited conversations.
Right. Well, I think that's what I mean when I say that there's a market for it, because people... You know, I think that a lot of people, especially musicians, because, you know, let's face it, a lot of people that go to shows are also musicians.
Yes.
And I think a lot of them are sick of hearing songs about, you know, how pretty the girl they love is, and, you know, how
but
much they can't wait to get home
but
to
there's
their
a market
baby.
for that.
And of course there is.
Okay.
And, you know, most of the songs I love, I mean, like, my favorite band is the Beatles, man, you know?
Okay.
And, you know... Every one of their songs, you know, there's very few political songs, although there are...
Later in their careers, they did that.
Yeah, certainly.
But in the beginning, it was all pop.
Yeah.
And syrupy.
And not that there's no room for that.
Right.
You know, I'm glad that there are those songs.
But there should be room for stuff that you do.
I just don't want to do it, you know. It doesn't challenge me as a songwriter.
Sure.
I've always written songs. You know? It's always kind of been my outlet. I've always had, you know, books full of lyrics and music and chord charts and everything. So this is just how I've been expressing it.
And I think that's a good way to go about it. And you should, you know, I would never, ever question. And I have major issues with people who say, well, you know, we should put this person out of business because of this. No.
Well, that's what happened. Like you said, what happened to the Dixie Chicks. And I remember it happening to Bruce Springsteen, too, which I was even more surprised by during the Bush administration. They said to him...
He caught a little bit of grief, but he was too big, and a lot of people just weren't going to do that. And Springsteen wasn't... See, the Dixie Chicks were in your face. Two things happened with the Dixie Chicks. They were in your face, and they didn't understand their audience. Springsteen had a rock and roll audience. Dixie Chicks have a country audience. Country audiences tend to be a lot more patriotic. Or I shouldn't, maybe not a lot more patriotic.
I think jingoistic is the word you're looking for.
Okay, jingoistic, we can use that word. I'll stick with patriotic. No.
I mean, I'm patriotic. I think I'm more patriotic than they are.
It depends on how you look at it. From your stance, you are. From their stance, no, you're not. But that's just points of view.
Right.
But they didn't understand.
I mean, they might look at me and see I'm not wearing an American flag pin and take me to task like they did to President Obama.
Exactly.
But, you know, that's not my patriotism.
Sure.
This record is my patriotism.
Right. Because it's celebrating free speech. And there's nothing more patriotic than free speech. So from that standpoint, I agree with you. But the Chicks didn't understand that their audience is this. And that's just basic business. If you're going to piss off your audience, you're going to be in trouble. Springsteen's audience was much larger, and he could withstand some people who didn't like what he said.
And he's still out there doing it. I mean, he just
sure.
took, what's his name, Christie to task.
Sure.
Not too long ago on the Jimmy Kimmel
Fallon.
show.
Jimmy was it? I think it was Jimmy Fallon, wasn't it?
One of those late night.
One of the
Jimmy
Jimmys. On one of the Jimmys. Yeah, it was funny.
Jimmy Fallon, you're right.
Yeah, it was
You're
pretty.
right.
It was pretty funny.
Yeah, it was great. I like that it had a comedy aspect to it too.
Yes.
I think that comedy has just as much of a force of being able to change minds as does rock and roll.
Because there's truth.
Because there's truth.
And every joke, that's why it's funny. There's a nugget of truth.
Every joke and every good line, I find,
Yes.
are similar because they're always surprising at the end.
Right.
The reason we laugh at the punchline is because we didn't expect it.
No. Yes.
But it turned us around. It makes sense, but
Right.
it turns you around a little bit. And a good
Exactly.
line works that way, too.
Exactly.
And I really do think about that a lot, even though, what we're talking about sounds serious and angry. But I think a lot of my lyrics are funny, and I'm trying to be funny a lot of the time.
Because sometimes humor is more effective in sending a message than just being serious all the time.
Right on.
Okay, let's get to the song, Redemption for the Rich, Prison for the Poor.
Oh, I think we just played it, didn't we?
Yes.
Oh,
What
let's
is
talk
it
about it.
Yes, let's talk about that.
Redemption for the Rich, Prison for the Poor is a song that I wrote after going to see... I went to see a movie with Julia, who played bass on it. She's also my partner. We went to see a movie. It was about mountaintop removal. It might have been called The Last Mountain.
Okay.
And that is a method of coal mining by which they blow off the top of the mountain and then extract it that way. It's a much more efficient and cost-effective method of coal mining than the traditional method.
Digging the tunnels.
Right. But it's also much more dangerous, much more environmentally impactful, and what ended up happening to this town in West Virginia was that the runoff from this mining expedition had caused a cancer cluster. And when a cancer cluster happens, it's not just the people you would expect that start developing cancer. It's everybody. So
Sure.
we're talking about small children,
Yep.
People in their prime, teenagers, and so on. So when that happened, this town got together and protested the company, and they blocked the way of the workers going to work. These people were all arrested. They were taken in, and when you're arrested in America, you are taken in, your name is put into a system, you are fingerprinted, and it is spread out throughout the country instantly. You are forever tarred by this thing.
Even if you're found innocent.
You're right. Even if you're found innocent, your fingerprints are forever
On file.
And this is like Scalia level stuff.
And they also want to then be able to take your DNA,
Yes,
which is wrong.
They do want that. And
Yes.
I don't know how did the Supreme Court rule on that? I believe they did against it.
Yeah, I think they did. I think you're right.
That doesn't mean that they won't come back.
Oh, of course it's going to come back.
But the people who committed these actual crimes have never been arrested, never faced any prosecution, and it made me think about how we really are living in a two-tier system, where the ladder of justice has a clearly defined top and bottom, and you and I, RJ, are on the bottom or close to it.
Yeah.
And so I didn't even talk about the mountaintop removal in the song. It's just kind of like I went home,
It
scribbled
inspired
down
you. It
redemption
inspired
for the
you.
rich, prison
Right.
for the poor. And then I started thinking about other examples of this. And throughout the song, you can hear there's like a dichotomy back and forth of like, well, if you, we hear stories about this all the time. If you, physically attack, if you're a woman who physically attacks your abuser, even in self-defense, you go to trial.
Yeah.
And this is especially true for women of color, and you can read about all the time.
There have been two examples. There was a woman, I believe she was in Maryland, shot a gun.
Oh, I know the case you're talking about.
Not at the her abuser.
To the ceiling, correct?
Yes, and she got a 20-year prison sentence.
Right, and she was a woman of color.
Right, and Shanine Allen, who in Jersey, got a gun here in Pennsylvania, got the gun, and she followed all the rules. The one rule she didn't follow when she wasn't thinking is she drove across the state lines to New Jersey. And she gets pulled over, and she tells the police officer, Just want to let you know I have a gun, thinking she's doing the right thing. She's facing 3 to 5 years in prison, although the prosecutor right now is rethinking.
And, you know, with today's environment, she's lucky that she wasn't just shot on the spot. You know?
Well, she didn't pull the gun out. She just told the cop that,
Yeah,
you know.
well, no, that seems to be the case a lot when there's unarmed people, you know, are getting fired upon. But you know, back to the lyric. So that begins the verse, and then the second half of it talks a little bit about the BP oil spill, about how, you know, you can spill 210 million gallons of sludge, and, you know, what do you get for that? Well, nothing. You know,
Well,
who went to jail over that?
No one went to
Nobody.
jail, but the government got lots of money.
Yeah, well, bully for them, right?
Right.
I don't know how much it did for...
And they didn't do a good job. The government, FEMA, didn't do a good job cleaning up. I mean, the state, Louisiana, cleaned up.
Well, they never do, because it's a completely unsupported system.
Right.
FEMA.
Okay, we are just flying through this. I enjoy the conversation, Bill, but we got to get to our next song.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then talk about that.
Okay.
And get it done before tomorrow morning. The song is called Ron Paul's Big Scam. We're hanging with Bill from I Am Not the Universe. Obviously, he puts a lot of thought into these songs, so check them out and listen to them. The album, if you want to check it out, is Super PAC Americana, and this is yourlocalnote.com.
Mr. Paul, you're low. Quite some people, some explanation. When your tonic's exposed as a product of imagination, farmers trade water for blood based on your recommendation. Painting the roses red is nothing more than the new segregation, and you know the world was waiting
it's my turn. Thank you. All right. The song is called Ron Paul's Big Scam. This is yourlocalnote.com. Appreciate you joining us tonight. We're hanging with Bill from I Am Not the Universe, and the album we're playing these songs off of is Super PAC's Americana. All right, Bill, we've got Ron Paul's Big Scam. Let's talk about this, because there's someone out there probably going, what?
Yeah.
Ron Paul's Big Scam? What, are you kidding me?
I get more comments, more negative look, when I started I Am Not the Universe, part of it was about politics. This album is all about politics, so you'd be right to think I only sing about politics. But the next one will be all about social justice, which is, kind of an avenue of politics. And the one before it, which I never released, but in my mind it exists, was all about religion. And, I've sang songs about people's religious views, like we talked about, and I've had nobody defend those, their religious views to me as strongly as the people who defend Ron Paul. Yeah, they are more passionate about Ron Paul than the God they believe in.
And I have a problem
in my
with
experience.
That. Yes, and I have a problem with that, and it ties into a lot of different things you just talked about. I think one of the things we do in this country that is wrong right now is we're putting these people on pedestals. Ronald Reagan is this to this group of people. Bill Clinton is this to this group of people. President
Hey man,
Obama,
they look like the same guy to me.
But there are certain people who are just, oh my God, you can't say anything wrong. And I'll tell you, I'll give you another example, and it's within my family. It's my mom. You can't say anything wrong about Catholic priests. I mean, she acknowledges that some did wrong. She's Italian and Catholic. Okay, next to Jewish mothers, Italian Catholic mothers will do a guilt trip like you can't believe. And
hi, Mom.
Yeah, and they. And they're very loyal to the church. And when we talked about priests getting married, you would have thought I was telling her I just killed someone.
Right.
She was so angry with me.
Right.
So, but the reason is her generation, priests were way up here.
Right. And this generation, I think, values celebrity that way. And
Yes.
the politicians who are particularly cunning, guys like, guys like Ron Paul, let's talk about it, have really, figured out how to work that. He's a Svengali. That's the word we used earlier to talk about him.
Right.
And I think that the ideology he's selling people is really harmful. It is one that makes an assumption about the opportunities afforded to Americans, and the presumption is that they are equal to begin with, when in fact that is not the case.
It's not equal, but there are opportunities. Is it going to be harder for some people? Yes, it's going to be harder. But in this country, unlike a lot of other countries in this world, you can come up from nothing, because there are too many examples, Bill. But you're right. It's not an equal playing ground. Listen, the kid from West Philadelphia, it has it much worse than I had it growing up in suburbia on Long Island. It's not an equal footing.
Right. And I think that's what he's selling people. Not to interrupt you, but
and if he is, he's wrong. Okay, I would agree with you that that's wrong. But I do think you do have control of your own destiny. But some people's roads are going to be, they're not going to be like this.
Right.
It's going to be zigging back and forth.
Right. And I think that, from what I've seen, the Pauls and this kind of like
libertarian,
far-right libertarian streak, man, it doesn't even make sense to say far-right.
No, libertarians are not far-right, because the libertarians... Because I read up on this stuff.
Yeah, there's a divergent path of libertarianism.
They believe in small government. And
in fact, not to speak for someone else, but Mike, who played bass on that song, sees himself as sort of a left-wing libertarian, or that's what he said the last time I spoke to him. Now,
okay,
Mike, I don't know if you still feel that way. I support you no matter what. I love you. You're a great guy. Hope to see you soon.
Well, I mean, this is the problem. People want labels, and if you and I went, and let's just we took a dozen topics.
Yeah,
I bet you we would find common ground on 90% of the topics, and there'd be one or two topics that you and I would be opposed to. So does that mean we shouldn't talk to each other because we have opposing views on a small percentage of topics?
There's definitely a contingency out there that wants us to feel that way.
And it's wrong.
And I'm trying, part of, when I was saying that I like to kind of like cause these discussions at my shows, it's to combat that, is to combat the idea that like, oh, you saw this on Fox. Well, I'm never going to talk to you, I wanted to say one other thing about this song. Because we talked about the Beatles a little earlier.
Yeah.
It's a little bit. I was thinking about "Sexy Sadie" when I wrote it.
Okay.
Which is another song, kind of about Svengali. If you know the history of it, it's sort of about the Maharishi, who John Lennon became disillusioned with. And I even kind of borrowed a line from that. The line is, "We were waiting just for you," right? And the world was waiting just for you.
Right.
That's how it goes. And there's kind of a chord progression that's similar. It goes from the G to the F sharp minor, which is, everybody remember when Karma Police, the Radiohead song, came out, and everybody identified it as sounding like Sexy Sadie?
Right.
Because of that one chord change.
Right.
I don't know if they did it intentionally or not, but I did it intentionally.
Okay. Sort of as an homage.
Yeah, an homage and more of a reference.
Okay.
Right?
Okay.
So I wanted to.
So you're not copying it to just say, "Oh, look how creative I am." You're saying, "Hey, listen, I liked it, so I put it in the song because I liked the way it sounded."
Yeah, I wanted the listener to think about that song while they were hearing this song because it's the same. It's the same kind of message in the lyrics, so it should be. Kind of, it borrowed a little bit from the chords as well.
Okay. Bill, where can people, and I know we have it on below us right now, but let's talk about where people can find you.
Yeah, they can get my album on iamnottheuniverse.bandcamp.com.
Okay.
They can find me on iamnottheuniverse.tumblr.com.
Okay.
There's a Facebook page as well if you just search I Am Not the Universe. I think I've got a YouTube account, and I've just started a Twitter account, @NotTheUniverse.
Yes. Yeah, I figured that out. So very cool. All right, we're going to get to the last song, and we're going to wrap things up.
Let's do it.
Bill, I really appreciate you hanging with us, and it's been an intriguing and interesting conversation with you.
Yeah, man. Thanks for having me.
And so let's talk about Broken Humans.
Broken Humans, okay, so the original title of Broken Humans was going to be Super PAC's Americana. That was kind of the working title.
Okay.
It just became easier to call it Broken Humans.
Okay, so the title of the album is tied into this song.
Right. And it's about, I think you'll like this one because it's about the influence of money into politics.
Okay.
The first line is, "The glad and greasy hands domain used to be back alleyways, but now they shake in hallowed halls, acting like they own the place." I don't know, man. I don't know if I can explain it better than that.
Okay. No, that makes sense. Makes a lot of sense. And that's something that we as Americans have to watch for. And, I look at it this way. I want transparency, true transparency, because I, again, probably have a very mean libertarian streak in the sense that if you want to donate all your money to someone, that's your business. I'm not going to get involved in that. But if you're donating all your money to someone, a politician, you're going to want something in return. So if I don't like or I don't agree with what you want done, well, I know you're donating a lot of money. I'm not voting for that person.
Yeah.
See, transparency is education.
Yeah, but, you might be under the illusion that votes are equal. Well, and I'm worried that they're not.
Okay. I mean, I think there was a story in the news today. A state representative in Connecticut, she voted 19 times the last election. A state representative in Connecticut.
Is that right?
Voted 19 times.
I missed that story.
So, you've got stuff like that. Yeah. I mean, do we have to clean up our system? Yeah. I mean, are there a lot of wrongs?
And the other thing is I don't really offer a lot of solutions in my songs.
Okay.
It's mostly just, I'm pointing out a problem and letting people do something. This song does kind of have a solution at the end, and I did it intentionally because it was the last song on the album.
All right.
And it's pretty much what you're talking about. It's more transparency. It's more, allowing more journalism to come in.
Sure.
I'm a big advocate of open journalism.
Yeah.
I think that they should have reporters,
Yeah.
in every office, every
Absolutely.
political office ought to be tapped. We should be able to
shine
listen
the
to
light
it all.
on everything.
Yeah.
That will clean everything up. I think I keep it simple that way. Bill, thank you so much. Like I said, a pleasure talking with
man,
you tonight.
thank you.
And the name of the album is called Super PAC's Americana. We've been hanging out with Bill from I Am Not the Universe. All the links where you can find him are right below us right now, and we'll keep that going so you can check that out. But we're wrapping things up here. But first, want to remind you again, we're streaming 24/7. We've got a concert calendar. We've got apps that are for free. Just go to the respective stores and type in YLN. We've got all this information going on. If it's about the Philadelphia music scene, it's here at yourlocalnote.com. So we're wrapping things up with Broken Humans from I Am Not the Universe and their album Super PAC's Americana on yourlocalnote.com.